So at Paige, we're building a product which is an adaptation for your classic Braille writer. So you can just swap out the base of your Braille writer and it will connect it wirelessly to any phone, tablet, or laptop.
Okay, this is so intriguing. This is just, I don't know, this has got a steampunk feel to it. Maybe it's just because we're talking about the classic Braille writer. When you say that, we're talking Perkins, what most people would know as a Perkins. Is that right?
Yeah, that's the one.
Okay, so how does this work?
So normally you've got this old hardboard base with 11 screws. So we'll post you our board and you can just unscrew those 11 screws and screw in our board. And inside we've got little sensors that can pick up all the levers inside and it acts just like a normal keyboard. So any software that you would do your SDF JKL keys with, it will work with that software instantly. So we can do things like instant translation, gamified learning to try and interactively teach you Braille. So it makes it much easier to sort of collaborate with sighted people who don't know Braille, or for you yourself to learn Braille interactively on any device.
Wow. Okay, so right, let me just get this in my head here then. So we're talking here about a device or making the Perkins smart to some degree, because you're
Yeah.
essentially turning it into a digital keyboard rather than just a mechanical keyboard for print onto paper. So you say it came up with any software that uses those keys
hmm
specifically. So you can't use this as a Braille display. That's not what this is, right? It's not going
No,
to turn into a Braille keyboard on Microsoft Word, for example.
no, no. So
Right.
it will work alongside our web app that we've built, and it will also work alongside things like UEB Online, Duxbury, APH has some software that works with this as well.
Perky Duck.
Yeah, it should work with that. Yeah.
What's with Perky Duck? I love Perky
My
Duck.
favourite
That was one
meal.
of my favourite. That's right. Yeah, Perky McDuck, I think, is your favourite, isn't it?
Yes.
No, I love this because that's. I guess what this is about is essentially education. I'm guessing, right? Is that the market you're aiming at?
So originally it actually came out a university project, and so we built this prototype and we put it in front of some TVIs, and they immediately wanted to buy it off of us. This sort of like gammy prototype we'd built in a month, and so we were like, oh wow, this is actually something that's useful. And I think it's because so many people are taught in mainstream schools, and there's so many people who don't know Braille, and they were having to sort of manually transcribe it with a pen, and so they immediately were like biting our arms off to try and get this.
So what's the technology behind it? You mentioned that it's sensing the levers. It's almost
Yeah.
almost like, well, I can't think of anything else like it. I'm trying to think of something I can compare it to,
No.
and I just can't. This is such a cool concept. But how accurate is it?
So we're having to fit to brailers over like 70 years. So all of them have like slight variations. And so the way we've done it is we've got these things called optical switches. So on one side there's a little light and on the other side there's a sensor. And when the lever goes down, it will break that beam of light. And so that's how we're detecting all these levers inside. So it shouldn't wear out
Ah.
mechanically at all. It should be quite robust. Um, and so as long as you're fully depressing the keys and raising them again, it will pick it up reliably. There's some people who are absolute like crazily fast who like mash the keys at like an incredible rate, and so sometimes it might have mispresses, but it should be quite reliable.
I can understand it working for, as you say, interrupting a beam of light for one key, but for multiple presses, how does it figure that out?
So we do it's classic like kind of chorded Braille input. So the way we group the press is this is a bit technical, but it'll be like the first key that goes down and the last key that goes up is how we'll group that press. And so it should reliably group that chorded input.
Okay.
So it can work out the different chords. It can work out all of the different associations, because I guess the software is doing the work on
Yes.
the other end in terms of translation. Because someone did ask me this question, and I have to say this was not. You'll know right away this is not a question I would ask. Someone far more intelligent than me asked this, which was about mathematics
hmm
in Braille.
Yeah.
And they said, how would it know the difference between one set of chords and the next if it's not got any ability? Would it be able to understand in the context of mathematics, say?
We're getting really technical. The
Mm.
So with mathematics, we use for our translation tool, we use Liblui, which is an open source Braille translator. So that will have supports for some really basic UEB maths. So it will be able to support basic symbols with our translation tool as it is. We're actually quite interested in adding more support for mathematics. So there's a really interesting open source project called MathCat, which is being driven by one guy, and he's currently working on adding Braille input to MathCat. And so as soon as he adds that, we're really interested in integrating that into our translation tool so we can offer like more support for UEB maths and as well as Nemeth maths as well.
Oh, no, I'm lost. But
I mean, that's a different world to
sounds
me, right?
impressive.
But it is. So I guess the question is, can it be upgraded that way so that the actual board itself will always do the same job, but it's the software that at the other end, which is actually the thing you can manipulate and
Yes, yeah.
improve upon.
Very much so. So we're doing everything through our web app, which we make freely available. So even if you don't buy our product, we make all of our software freely available, which is something that's quite important to us. And so we can add stuff continually, and we do. So recently we added quite a fun feature that literally turns your Perkins into like a musical keyboard. So if you've got younger kids who want to sort of like play around with that, and so yeah, we're continually adding more support. And we recently added a whole new thing where we've got a dashboard for our learning content, so you can actually see your progress and create an account, and like your teacher can see how you're progressing through all the activities and things.
Oh, very nice. Never mind kids. I want to play that. I want to play the Perkins.
Yeah,
That
absolutely.
sounds amazing. Now, you mentioned this started off as a university project, but what made you even think of this, the retrofitting aspect, rather than, I mean, usually everyone's looking for, the latest and greatest technology, AI or whatever it may be, to come up with a solution to a problem. But what made you go down the route of retrofitting this, as you mentioned, in some cases, 70-year-old tech?
So it's kind of a long story because originally we did it through a university project with the brief was sourced from a charity called the Kilimanjaro Blind Trust, who are doing really amazing work in Africa distributing assistive tech. And so they're the ones who initially got our brain sort of ticking on this problem. And initially the project was to produce a low cost Braille display. And we slaved away at this really difficult project and we got it quite far. And then at one point we realized that we could snap off all this software that we'd built, click it onto a Perkins, and we would immediately have a product. And so that's when we then showed it to the TVIs and they were really enthusiastic. And we basically found that people are still learning on the Perkins typically. It will be the first device that they'll learn Braille on before they move on to a display. And our whole thing was, how do we do Braille affordably? Because we thought if you were sat at home wanting to learn Braille, there's so many barriers. It's not just price. It's like you would have to seek out a dedicated TVI to help you. And you've got to have a lot of motivation to sort of even get started. And compare that to like the sighted world where you can just download Duolingo kind of on a whim for free and immediately start learning a language for fun. And so we wanted to make it much more like that, where you could actually start Braille for fun. But the problem is it's a tactile medium. You need hardware to be able to actually feel those Braille dots. And so our whole thing was, how can we get Braille cheaply under somebody's fingers and get them learning Braille as affordably as possible? And that's how we kind of gravitated towards retrofitting this device that everyone's already using, or that you can buy secondhand or for free. And yeah, that was our motivation for kind of going down that route.
Well, again, we tend to forget that perspective, don't we? Which is that, around the world, there are people who just can't afford or get access to this technology, but they may have access to something like a Perkins Brailler. And I have to say, that's the same in the West as well.
Yeah.
I think about many schools where I live and certainly where I was brought up and educated, that, there were plenty of Perkins Braillers available, but that was kind of it.
Yeah.
So, the being able to take that technology, old technology to some degree, and smarten it up to some degree. I'm sure I remember one where you would place it on this base and it would allow you to print. I'm sure that's right.
Yeah.
I'm sure I remember this from back in the day. And, that we're talking kind of late 80s, early 90s at that point.
Yeah,
and people were already looking to smarten it then.
Yeah, I'm a bit nerdy about this. So if you go on our website, we've actually got a history section where we've tried to find all of these different like examples of this. So you're right, that product was the Braille imprint. So I think that was made by Quantum, distributed by Humanware back in the day, and it used to hook up to like dot matrix printers.
Yes,
we've heard
right.
they're very loud because you've got the Perkins bashing
yes.
away and then the dot matrix printer like chugging away as well. I think there was a similar thing with SensorTech in Belgium. They were founded on a product similar. And then there's been little things in the UK. There was one called the Micro Brailler, where they were kind of getting the old BBC micros and hooking them up to them. So there's really amazing projects that have been done in the past, and we've documented them all in our like history section of our website.
Why do you think it is that the Perkins has been around for so long?
It's a good question. I mean, if you look at, again, I'm a bit of a weirdo because I like dig into all of this stuff. But
welcome to Double Tap.
We love it here. Love it geeking out.
The American Printing House has this like amazing library of the old Braille writers, and there used to be way more variety. And I think in Europe there's still a bit more variety in like Germany and things, you've got a Slovak company who does the TartraPoint, you've got another company who does one in Germany. Why that one has stood the test of time, I don't know, like, but it is by far the most used Braille writer. And so, yeah, it's been 70 years, so hopefully there will be an update eventually, and maybe we can help out with that. But it's
What? Sorry, carry on.
It's construction, surely, though, isn't it? I mean, the construction alone is a good reason for it to survive. I mean, this thing could survive anything. I feel that, you know, if the asteroid comes and wipes us all out, future generations that emerge from the dust will find Perkins Braillers in fully
Cockroaches
working
and
order.
Perkins, the only thing
Yeah,
that will
that'll be it.
survive.
Yeah.
it is a tank, yeah.
That sort of goes on to my next question. I mean, it is a tank. It's quite a heavy piece of equipment. There are moving parts on it. Have you even thought about, you know, not retrofitting, but redesigning the Perkins? Is there a better way?
Ooh, that's a good question.
It's something we ponder. So there's actually, obviously, you've got smart writers that are sometimes a bit more pricey. So you've got ones from like Harpo and things like that were developed, I think, in the UK originally at RNC. But they're still quite pricey, and our whole thing is affordable Braille for everyone. So we are quite keen to try and at least match the price point and update it, or try and hit a lower price point. There's a really fun project. It is a bit slow and a bit loud, but it's an open source project that people are working on called the Braille Wrap, which is just like a normal sort of, it repurposes a lot of Thrinter tech. So it's got some motors that move side to side, back and forth like a normal plotter, and then it just bashes the individual dots. So it's a little bit slow, and so if you could kind of strip that down and speed it up, make it a bit quieter, that could be quite a compelling product. So it is something that plays on our mind and that we'd be quite interested to see if we could do.
Yeah, because, you know, as you were talking about this, and you were talking about the fact that you can essentially use these keys on the Perkins as input onto a computer using the web app or Duxbury or whatever else. I was kind of thinking, you know, remember those old pianos that they could play themselves? They would have sort of some a paper fed through them that would allow them to sort of play notes. I'm kind of wondering, could you retrofit a Perkins Brailler to be actually print
An embosser.
Braille as well? Yeah, just become an embosser for you. Is that
funnily enough,
is that possible?
That's been done back in the day. So
really?
I think it was Dean Blasi with the, oh God, you're really making me like dig up all of my weird research.
Nerd.
I love it.
There was like a Dean Blasi company, I think, called the Maryland Computer Company, I think, and they literally did exactly that, bash away on the keys at the front and basically try and repurpose it into an embosser. I think they found that it would wear out when you're trying to sort of like constantly mash the keys, trying to turn it into an embosser. So yeah, we're trying to sort of go back to ground zero and see whether, with the tech we have in 2024, whether we can reinvent this sort of 70-year-old machine.
And that's incredible.
It is, yeah. I mean, just looking at this technology again with a fresh perspective on it. I mean, who knows where you could go with this? And on that, so with this current Paige Braille base plate, is this supported for smartphones as well, or is this purely for desktop computers?
It will be everything. Because we make it just perform like any other keyboard, you can connect it to literally anything. And that was quite important to us because we knew that with a lot of assistive tech, not only are you spending a lot of money, you're then having to put the effort in to learn how to use it, which again isn't a feature of a lot of mainstream tech. You normally can just sort of pick them up and they're quite intuitive. So we wanted to just make it into a normal Bluetooth keyboard. You can connect it to any phone, any tablet, any laptop, and you can use the screen reader you're already comfortable with our web app. We don't want you to have to learn how to use a whole new device. We don't want TVIs in schools having to support the technology because it's kind of buggy or weird. We just wanted to go as basic and robust as we could.
So let me ask you this, because I think there's a lot of our listeners especially who might be thinking, okay, so I've got a Perkins Brailler at home, like me, for example. Let's just use me as an example because I'm probably exactly this person. In fact, I am. Let's just say it. So I want to take my Perkins Brailler, I want to smarten it up a little bit, and I want to use it as an input method for my computer so that I could perhaps write some notes or, write an address or take a phone number down, that kind of thing. Just maybe basic things I could do with it, just have it off to the side and use it in that way. Is that a good use case for it? Is that another way I could use it? Does that make sense is what I'm asking?
Yeah, I mean, definitely could. So the way it works is you would open up our web app and you would start embossing and you would get that hard copy version, and also your screen reader would be speaking the words to you as you're embossing them. So you can make sure that you're embossing everything correctly, and you'd get that audio feedback. You could then also copy that and paste it into anything you wanted, like an email. You could also download the Word document, download the BRF file, and have that embossed if you wanted more copies. And then we've also got on our learning tab, it's to sort of interactively teach you Braille. So if you're completely new to Braille, it would teach you the alphabet to begin with, sort of saying A is .1, and you would hit .1 and it would say correct. And then it will slowly introduce contractions and more complicated things and get you to use them in context.
Oh, I like this. I
yeah.
like this a lot.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
I think this could be huge. This is such an intriguing way to do it.
Well, so I was talking to someone just the other day about this, someone who's been teaching Braille for a very long time, and she had made the point that the teaching of Braille hasn't really changed that much in the last sort of 20, 30 years. And it really does need a bit of an upgrade. I mean, those of us in the UK, and I don't know how widespread this is used, but the fingerprint course is really the only way to learn Braille in the UK. And, you know, it's great. But, you know, Bill and Jane and all of our friends, you know, and Bill, frankly, is a horrible man.
Awful.
Who would be cancelled by today's society. You know, just we've got to move on from that, you know. And it's funny because, of course, as soon as you say Bill and Jane to anybody, that's how you can pick out who's done the fingerprint course, right? Because you just know immediately, everyone laughs. But it's true because, you know, it's such an old way of doing it. And a lot of kids especially find that really difficult to do. They find it hard to keep the attention. Whereas what you're saying, you're absolutely right. You know, if you can bring technology into it, then all the better. You know, I love the idea of using it as a teaching aid because I think you're right. I know we focus on children and we should, because I, for one, and I've said it many times on this show, believe that children need to be learning Braille, especially low vision children, not just those who are totally blind. But there are a lot of people like me, like Shaun, in later years, shall we say, who would quite happily learn Braille. But, you know, if we can bring some tech into it and learn it at our own pace, that would be pretty cool. And this sounds like a cool way to do it. I mean, it seems like that for me would be just a reason alone to get this.
Yeah, and we've also, because I ordered the fingerprint course and I got the reams and reams of hard copy Braille, and it was sort of saying to volume 15 on page whatever, and it's like, yeah, it's a very manual process and very slow. We've also tried to do something a bit unusual, which is you would start writing first with the right dot combinations, and then what we do is we get you to read it back by touch and try and copy out what you've written. So you're actually generating your own hard copy resources as you go and practicing that kind of touch reading. But yeah, I mean, adult education is something that we're really interested in as well. We're kind of going for schools initially because they're the ones who we've had most traction with. But our dream is that we make this easy for any individual. So if you're sort of thinking, oh, I want to get started with Braille, this could be the product that could make that easier for you. And I know there's been phenomenal work being done with the Braillist Foundation, doing their kind of Braille for Beginners course and things, just trying to lower the barriers a little bit to getting started. So it's definitely something we're like 100%. That's our end goal, is to make this easy for everybody.
Yeah, Braillist Foundation in the UK has done an incredible job. Hadley in the US, of course. CNIB are promoting widely in Canada. So, you know, it's great to see the resources coming around, but, you know, it is getting access to the hardware. And, you know, I think the key thing here is there may be those of us who have more access and more likely to get access to that kind of device. You know, I remember calling up my social work services department and asking if they had any Perkins Braillers, and they said, "Oh yeah, we've got one of those dusty old things lying in the cupboard."
Yes.
I'm like, "Yes, that would be really useful, thank you."
Yeah.
And it wasn't for me, actually, it was for someone else. But, you know, the point was that someone else had access to it, but they just thought it was some dusty old piece of kit that should belong in a museum.
And it usually is. To be fair, every time you get one, it smells like it's just come out of the pyramids or something.
That's right. Yes.
So,
that's right.
So we're talking about access to this stuff, and you give some really good points there. What are we talking about price-wise? And is there a subscription for use of your web learning app?
No, so we any money that we make from our hardware, we can sync back into improving our software, and then we make that software freely available to everyone. And we're constantly open to feedback and suggestions of what people want us to add. So anyone can head to our website at paigebraille.com and access all of this, and they can also send us feedback and feature requests and things. In terms of the hardware, the way we've done it, because we hummed and hawed about how we were going to price the product, and I know the Smart Brailler is like $2,000 or something. It's quite an expensive piece of kit. And so we did it is we surveyed the local authorities who had been really keen on the product, and we did a thing called a price sensitivity meter. So you basically ask them, like, at what price would it be so cheap you would question the quality of the product? At what price would you consider it cheap? At what price expensive? And at what price so expensive that you wouldn't buy it? And then we sort of gathered all of these numbers and plotted them. and that's how we arrived at our pricing, which is £240 just for the hardware. And then you can retrofit that to any Perkins that you want. And then, yeah, so just one-time purchase, no subscriptions, just very simple.
No subscriptions, I'll take it.
That's a bargain in blind world.
Yeah, I know these days. Goodness me. And great price. So this is available in the UK, but is available around the world.
So currently we're selling through Sight and Sound technology in the UK, and we're looking at getting it out in other territories because we've had some interest from countries, and we're working on localizing our website to different languages, all of our user manuals to different languages. We're quite a small team, so we're having to do all of this ourselves. And we're also quite keen to see whether we could even localize our learning content and actually come up with little curriculums for other Braille codes and things. And we're also really keen to try and get the product out in the US at the moment as well. So there'll be news around that quite soon.
Amazing.
And how easy is it to fit the device yourself? You mentioned 11 screws. Is it something we can do without sight?
And hang on, can I just say I am the king of DIY?
No.
So I would be brilliant at this. All I get now, let me just get this right. I would get a hammer and smash the board onto the bottom of my Perkins. Correct?
He's not joking.
It is, just 11 screws and then you're fine. We've also done it so that it's just powered over a USB cable. So there's no batteries because we didn't want batteries that then wear out and you've got to recharge. So it's just USB. You can mains power it. You can power it with a battery pack, anything you like. And then it will connect wirelessly to any of your devices, just like any other Bluetooth keyboard.
That's interesting. I thought it was a wired keyboard. So it's not a wired keyboard. It's the wire is purely for charging.
Purely for power, and then you can connect it wirelessly to anything you like. And then, the sensors shouldn't wear out if you fitted it correctly because it shouldn't actually be making contact with the levers. So it should be incredibly hard wearing. And if there's any problems, obviously get in touch with us and we'll fix it.
Because that's the only bit that makes me nervous, if I'm honest. Unscrewing anything from something that old, I always think, am I about to destroy this? But you're giving me the confidence here that as someone who's blind, I can do this myself?
I think you'd get more confidence if you saw the existing baseboard because it's just sort of a bit of cardboard. It's not doing anything structural. Right. It's just sort of there to cover it up, if you see what I mean.
Right, got you. Okay. Well, in that case then, let's have at it with a screwdriver. Okay,
fine. We'll do it live. Stephen, you can do that live.
Let's do it live. Yeah, let's do a live unscrewing of a Perkins. What could possibly go wrong?
This is such an intriguing project and device. I think it's just such a cool use of technology. I think this could be massive. I'm just really well done. I think you've done a great thing here.
Yeah, it's an incredible idea. Well, listen, come back and tell us more about it. Tell us how you're getting on. Don't be a stranger here because we want to know all about this.
And when you make the incredibly inexpensive Braille cells, let us know.
We will.
Yes.
Keep you updated.
Yeah. Greg, thanks so much for coming on today.
Thanks so much for having me.
Hi guys, Stephen here. If you want more content like this, then all you have to do is like and subscribe to the channel. And if you want to catch new episodes of Double Tap, you can do right here on YouTube every weekday from noon Eastern or on AMI Audio across Canada. And of course, in your favorite podcast app as well. Thanks for watching.